All right, we are back. Peanut Gallery. Heckling at the hard camera.
Yes.
Let's see the impact of TNA on the United States culture. Go ahead.
I am really good at this kind of stuff, so let's pull up the first picture here. So we're going to talk about the impact that TNA as a brand, you can pull up any picture you want, that TNA has had.
Okay, I need like a direction. Just tell me who. Okay, I'm gonna put up Gail Kim.
Okay, great.
Because this was to me this was the first big impact of TNA.
We're gonna talk about how TNA in general has impacted the scene in American professional wrestling.
I think at this point, and I want to say this, without this Knockouts era, we would not have had the WWE women's division that we have today.
We wouldn't have had Charlotte. We wouldn't have had Becky. We wouldn't have Ronda Rousey.
Where
we
women
Sasha Banks.
Where they took a risk with this and knocked it out of the park. It was because of her. It was because of Awesome Kong. It was because of Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, all of them.
They took the women as serious competitors and they incorporated them into serious run. Now think about WWE. They did it for a long time and then they kind of gave it up.
Right, and then they started doing divas.
They did the whole divas thing, like PG divas, like 2-minute matches.
Gag me with a fucking spoon.
With like Team Bella versus PCB and
No, we're talking about way earlier than that.
Oh, we're talking like Santina Marella earlier?
I think so. Yeah, no, this was 2007. Keep that in mind.
Oh, so that was...
This was 2006, 2007. This is when the Divas had like 10 people tags and they only had it for 2 minutes.
Well, no, that was like 2010. But anyways, they started getting that way because that Lay Cool and you got like
This was Diva Search era. This was Diva Search era where you had Gail Kim, you had Awesome Kong, you had Roxy Laveau. You had it where it was taken seriously.
Right.
This changed the landscape of women's wrestling to this day.
Because remember there was not a major competitor for women's wrestling.
You're right. We lived through this. I remember this. The one thing I loved watching Impact Wrestling was because of Gail Kim and Awesome Kong.
Yeah, and the others who have made that division like what it is.
Right, but these two were the spearheads.
Yeah, they were.
100% the spearheads.
So anyways, the reason I brought this up was because they were almost a precursor to the era where there was a little... I mean, there was raunchy people, of course.
Right.
With the beautiful people, but...
Even the beautiful people were trendsetters in their own right.
But you got, like, the serious competitors as well. And that's what Gail Kim really embodied as well, was that she came from that era where women were still treated seriously, and then she went over to TNA... And brought that spirit along with her.
That Miss Jackie, which is somebody that really not a lot of people think is like, man, I mean, Jackie Moore herself, WWE Hall of Famer, former WWE Cruiserweight Champion, one of the best women's wrestlers ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I will even say this to a fault. I think Gail Kim is kind of up there with women's blazers like Chyna.
Yeah, I can say that. For the alternative women's wrestling promotions, it's not WWE mainstream, but she was the pioneer in that alternative space.
And it was so great
to
see too.
WCW couldn't provide that.
No. And WWE at that time were really more about those models going into wrestlers, where Gail Kim, still cute, but at the same time, wrestler.
Right.
And then you have Awesome Kong, larger, African-American woman, kicking ass, got over as a heel.
Right.
And in 2007, one of the best rivalries, I think, in that era was Gail Kim, Awesome Kong.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some other ways that TNA has made an impact.
And that was TNA, too.
Yeah,
Keep that in mind,
TNA.
too. That was that Knockouts division.
Yeah. Let's talk about the X division.
Boom. X division.
I mean, what more can you say about it? Most innovative division probably in the history
and
of
WCW were really the ones that brought the cruiserweights into a point where
the X division was a little bit different. It was something different than the cruiserweights, and this is something you even see today. How heavy is our new cruiserweight champion, Josh Alexander, 240 pounds. He's not considered a cruiserweight, by most definitions.
X Division was not cruiserweight. X Division was no limits.
But that's what makes it different, is that the X Division was different than what you would see with
goddamn, you saw. Samoa Joe was one of the best X Division champions of all time, and I guarantee you, he's not 205 pounds.
Right. but the point being is that it wasn't about weight limits; it was about no limits. That rings true to this day, literally.
Yep, and they had such a great match this time. It's it really kind of puts in there, and it's like I love the X Division champion. I love everything around it, and it's oh my god. There's so much great lineage with it.
That's the one thing I think that remains from... I think that's the only thing that remains today from TNA that exists still in Impact.
I can say that.
There has not been a stoppage or anything to it. It has always been a mainstay.
Now, it's gone up and down based on who was in the division and stuff.
Six-sided ring.
It did. And, you had great matches that they still do. I have not seen an Ultimate X match in a while, but I guarantee you in the right circumstance, they'll bring it back. Oh, yeah. You had Elevation X. You had a lot of great matches that I'll even talk about.
You had the cage version of the X match. That was...
the Asylum match.
Yes.
The red one with the little hole on the top.
Yeah, with the hole on top, yeah. You had that one. The X Division itself...
It was Spotfest City, but it was obviously successful.
But it was Spotfest City before Spotfest became cool.
Right. Exactly.
So...
exactly. What can you say about it?
What more can you say about it? The X Division, TNA and the X Division go hand in hand. It remains to this day with Impact. When you think about Impact Wrestling, you're probably going to think about the X Division.
Yep, absolutely.
Move on to the next one. All right.
Lethal Lockdown. So why not?
Well... In general, what I want to talk about with this one was they pioneered the thematic pay-per-view, I think, in a lot of ways.
In a way, that's something that I don't like for the most part.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it. So with the thematic pay-per-views, they introduced the first women's steel cage matches. Mm-hmm. They introduced the first, they introduced a lot of stipulations with a cage attached to it. I think that they were one of the few pro wrestling promotions to kind of do it.
Yeah, they had Lockdown. They had Hardcore Justice, which I'll talk about.
It wasn't untasteful like Hell in a Cell is. It's okay, come on. It's so obvious. It's let's call it something unique and different. And what I liked about the way that TNA did it was they built up rivalries, the expectations that these
right. It wasn't let's just put these two in a Hell in a Cell because that's what's coming up.
Right.
No, they built up certain
and you
things
can see
to
that,
where
Main Event Mafia, for example, versus the
Frontline.
They built it up for months and months and months and months
to this match, right?
It felt this match was going to happen.
The thing is that WWE's missing is that this was organic.
Yes.
It was an organic transition from there. Oh, it just happened to be a lockdown.
Right.
Oh my God, we have this where it may have not have been so noticeable, but then even if it was noticeable, they built that organically.
Right. And that's, I think, what TNA brought to the table was they had a very good...
100%.
It wasn't necessarily the gimmicks, because, of course, we had Royal Rumble and stuff like that. But with TNA, I think that they really mastered the organic growth of rivalries towards gimmick pay-per-views.
Right. Exactly.
And I might almost credit Vince Russo in a small way to it, is because he, back when Raw was really popular, that was part of that strategic, long-term sort of thinking. You can hate Vince Russo all you want.
I hate Vince Russo for other reasons.
Right, but as far as his build-up for organic...
He had certain build-ups, but once again, there was a filter there. Yeah. I don't like how he dealt with women. I don't like how he dealt with Asian Americans.
There's a lot of things I hate him for, but...
I hate him for other reasons. I will say at least one thing is that there was organic growth that he did, and maybe it was through the eyes of Vince McMahon, but Vince Russo was still the head
Vince
booker
Russo
at the time.
he still had a little bit of power there. So anyways, I really want to bring that up because I feel like that's something that might be missing from Impact today.
I think so.
Organic build.
What do you want to go to? Oh, we got to talk about this one. Come on.
So with this one, I got to talk about two different things.
One of the greatest rivalries. This is where TNA was on the map.
Yeah,
right here.
This was the height. This was the height of the rivalry. But what I want to highlight is two different things with this one. I want to highlight the fact that TNA was kind of like the NXT before NXT was a thing. This were all the people who were cut by WWE or who were not noticed by WWE. They got their ropes. Samoa Joe's, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels. They were. It was kind of like the test run for the big rigs.
Right. You have Samuel Shaw, now Dexter Lumis. You had even Johnny Gargano. You had Tommaso Ciampa in this.
Right.
And now Ring of Honor can take some credit here as well. But
Ring of Honor did not have the Spike TV that TNA had.
Austin Aries, once again. It's like, you get a lot of these people
and
then
the other thing I want to highlight with this one, too, was it was also a great place for veterans to get their second wind.
Yep. Kurt
That's
Angle.
where you got your Kurt Angles. That's where you get your...
Now, Kurt Angle was released by WWE due to other circumstances of him being in, like, a drug addict.
But you got your Kurt Angles. You got your... I mean, you want to go towards...
Kurt Angle, Booker T, Kevin Nash,
Scott Halls. You want to go
Sting.
to Sting.
Sting was more WCW, but kind of the same principle. Jeff Jarrett.
Yep.
And Rhino, Raven.
Yep. Rob Van Dam. Right, exactly.
Jeff Hardy.
Yep, Jeff Hardy. Matt Hardy.
Obviously, there were some problems there, but once again, when you think Jeff Hardy, I mean, honestly, there are some TNA moments that almost come to mind for the most part as a part of Jeff Hardy.
The point is that TNA was a great place for veterans to get their second wind and for newcomers to come up. It was like, a lot of indie shows, they bring these veterans, and then they bring the new guys. This was like an indies with a television, national television audience.
And this is something that one of our fans actually brought up, and I actually do agree with it. TNA back in the day was very much what ECW could have been if they had that TV deal.
Right.
Where they brought in those international wrestlers. Because ECW were the first ones that brought in the luchadors.
Right.
I mean, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, a lot of these luchadors.
If WCW survived into the mid-2000s, they would be what TNA is. And that really is what TNA kind of captured. They captured a lot of that Southern wrestling audience that was lost when WCW went under.
Right.
And it lost a lot of the ECW audience when ECW went under.
Exactly.
And
this was the pinnacle rivalry.
Yes, it was. Because you got the veteran versus what many consider to be
the best
rookie
wrestler at that time. I mean, Samoa Joe was the talk of the town,
I mean,
and people wanted this. People
wasn't
wanted
a rookie,
this,
right? But he wasn't a rookie. But if it wasn't for TNA, he would not have been in WWE.
Yep. If it wasn't for TNA, I mean, Samoa Joe was talked about with Ring of Honor, but this is where he got that big break
because TNA had the national television deal.
You all right, mate?
Yep. Had to adjust my legs here.
Okay. No, I mean, this is where it was. And with Samoa Joe, he was killing everybody.
Yeah.
And people it's like, oh, Kurt Angle's going to TNA. Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle. Come on. Where can you go wrong there? And every time they faced, it was
magic.
They literally wrestled for every single TNA champion.
Yeah, they did.
Every single one.
And the IWGP.
And I'll be talking about Samoa Joe in a great match later on, so keep that in mind.
So let's move on to the next one here.
Why not? Let's talk about Ricky King.
All right, so TNA was one of the first major
I think they were the first ones. I don't think WWE ever did anything.
Have a spin-off brand in an international location.
No, this was their first big market in India.
But I want to highlight the fact that TNA built an international spin-off before WWE did with NXT UK.
Yep.
This was the first foray of a company in a sense of like sole funding, no partnership.
They did have a partnership. They had a sponsor.
But it wasn't a wrestling company.
It was not a wrestling company. It was a gigantic truck company, and I think the entire production was actually funded by the television producers.
It was.
Right.
So
by color.
Right. So the point being is that this is something that WWE hasn't even done because they partnered up with UK promotions to do NXT UK.
Right. This
was homegrown, like it failed spectacularly because
no, it didn't. The problem is that Ring of King never really failed. Their first episode got 42 million eyes, and they almost kept that.
We're talking like the quality of the wrestling. It was just a spectacular failure.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think what the problem is that
they literally had people who were not experienced in wrestling at all to be
they did not give a shit about being wrestlers either. It was like they took the approach of something that was wrong. You need wrestlers to be wrestlers. You cannot have movie stars or people who want to be movie stars to be wrestlers.
Right. But anyways, this was the first time that an American company went abroad without a partnership.
Yep.
To attempt to create a wrestling promotion.
They made a brand. This was a TNA brand.
And people still talk about it to this day.
Ring of King. Come on. If you say Ring of King, it's infamous now.
Right.
And it's always a lot of fun. I personally love Ring of King.
The 8-year-old Indian child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark Heedy, I love you. Anyway, so let's talk about our final one, which is once again, I think is a great end-off to not only yours, but women's wrestling. Let's talk about the first women's wrestler to win a major wrestling North American promotion champion.
And I think that this is a great way to end it off because I think who is going to be the second?
Right.
How is something like, when is Charlotte going to win the WWE Championship?
I don't know if that will ever happen. I mean, China was slated to win the WWF Women's Champion. And Tessa Blanchard, she was just too popular not to.
Yep.
And the thing is, people hate it when women face men as wrestlers.
Yep.
But the thing is, if you want equality, this is equality to the gnat's ass.
Right.
I'm sorry. I have never felt uncomfortable with women facing men ever.
Right. But and Tessa Blanchard as champion, my God. I mean, we were at a show when she was champion live.
Yep.
That was the most popular piece of the night.
Yep. And the problem is, so here's my thing. Tessa Blanchard as an individual has obvious problems.
Yes.
She's had emotional problems, and what happened here is a testament of what happened.
Yep.
The thing is that TNA took a gamble.
Yep.
This alone is still a big gamble, and it was successful. Is there somebody going to be as popular as Tessa Blanchard? I don't know.
Right. So I guess
I could see Deonna Purrazzo going for the X Division champion as soon as she loses the fucking.
I mean,
knockouts.
Jordan Grace went for it not too long ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They had it, but Tessa Blanchard was the one who got to the big time.
Right. So the question I want to leave you, Tiger, Trump, and the rest of our glorious audience.
So it is Tiger Height. The thing is still Tiger Height, but Tiger Trump is only for 2 social medias.
Okay. So anyways.
That's fine.
The question I want to ask everyone is, what is Impact Wrestling going to pioneer next?
I mean, really, this is a company, and here's my thing. This is a company that is so willing to take a gamble at everything.
Yep.
But the problem is, we've already have seen a major wrestling network have a transgender champion in Nyla Rose. We've already talked about it.
But
where does TNA go from here? I don't know.
But you know that they're going to pioneer something.
Here's the only thing that I could possibly think of. A man winning the Knockouts champion. That's it.
Well,
not a transgender.
I didn't want to speculate.
Hell, even a transgender woman, a male transitioning into a woman winning the world champion. That is the only thing I could possibly think of.
But there are a lot of other things that they can pioneer.
There really is.
But I really wanted to leave it as really an open question: is what is TNA?
There's a lot to do.
Impact Wrestling, the cockroach of the industry that we thought so many times would die.
Yep.
And they come back and today they're better than they have been since 2006. What are they going to pioneer next?
Absolutely. So when we come back, we're talking about Wrestling Lesson. We're talking about TNA pay-per-views that we don't see anymore and their history. So stay in tune. We'll be right back.